In this special edition of The Marketing Show, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to deal with marketing during a crisis or in times of economic uncertainty, exactly like what we're going through right now. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or marketer, then you're going to want to pay very close attention because in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing and advising my clients and my students and my audience about what to do to not only avoid and mitigate any disaster, but also come out stronger and better positioned on the other side of this whole thing. So with all that said, let's get to it. When it comes to marketing and to operating your business in a time of crisis or a time of economic uncertainty, one thing is really clear, and that is that very few people were able to accurately predict or essentially see this coming. And even if they were able to see it coming, it was almost impossible to decide or to really solidify the exact point and the exact time at which this was going to occur, at any time that this is going to occur. That's why they call it economic uncertainty. That's why they call it a crisis, simply because the ability to prepare beforehand, well, it sounds good, but the reality is we never really know when this is going to hit or when some kind of chaos or market disruptions are going to occur and really impact all of us. That said, there are a number of things you can do today, now, right here, in order to not only avoid any potential disaster, not only to make things worse, but also to position yourself even stronger to come out on the other side. Not only that, but also as we go through what is probably going to be perhaps a bit of a recession. And by all means, I am no economist, I'm no Nostradamus, I cannot predict the future, but just looking at the data, looking at the science, looking at where things are going, we're gonna have to ride this thing out probably for a little bit. Even if this isn't the recession, there pretty much always has to be some kind of down to go along with every up. We can't just keep going up forever, as great as that would be. So the reality is it's during these down times that we're able to build a stronger foundation. This is why the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. It's because the rich are able to capitalize on these opportunities, not in an unethical way. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes here, but regardless, there's going to be some opportunities here that are going to be available to you, at the very least, for you to improve yourself, improve your business, improve your vision, and improve the direction with which you're going. So with all that said, these are the things that I am doing right now, right here, today, the things that I'm advising my clients to do, my students to do, and now that I'm advising you to do in order to mitigate any damage and to come out of this thing as strong as humanly possible. All right, so the very first thing that I am doing is I'm really focusing in on my existing clients and on my own business. Essentially, I'm going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. I'm doing pretty much a traditional SWOT analysis, that SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, obviously, during these times, there are a ton of threats, so I don't want you to get bogged down and focus only in the threat column because there are going to be some opportunities here. There's going to be some ability to transition or to shift, or at least to clarify or solidify your vision and make sure that the direction that your business and your life are moving in are actually the direction that you really want to move in. Often it takes a crisis, it takes some economic uncertainty, it takes some outside external forces to force us to really take a step back and evaluate where we are and where we're going, and if the direction that we're heading in is the right one for us, given everything that we know. So if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, this is a great opportunity to take a step back, put all your cards on the table and start to analyze, all right, what's going well, what's not, where are we strong, where are we weak, how can we sort of take advantage of this downtime in order to really double down on where we want to go and what's getting in our way, how can we mitigate that? And then of course, looking way further in the future, and I appreciate that's really hard to do when you're struggling right now, but looking into the future in order to establish a bit of a backup plan or a safety plan so that we never have to be in this position again. On the flip side, if you have an agency or a consulting business or a coaching business, this is a really good opportunity to lay out each of your clients across kind of a metaphorical table, essentially, a piece of paper for each one, and start writing down their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, their threats, trying to get into their minds, their heads, have conversations with them, see what you can do to help them get through this. This is an opportunity for real leaders to rise up and to provide greater levels of service and position to essentially be strong when the world appears to be crumbling down all around them. There are going to be those opportunities for you to become a pillar or a beacon of strength, and one that people can turn to in order to get good advice and, at the very least, a calm, cool, and collected perspective on this entire thing. All right, the next thing that I'm focusing on and I'm advising my clients and students, and now you of course, is that cash is king, especially during an economic shutdown, economic crisis, whatever we want to be calling this thing, even a recession. Cash is going to be king because this is going to enable businesses just like yours to survive however long this thing lasts. So when it comes to cash flow, when it comes to appreciating the fact that cash is king, well, obviously it's going to be more evident and more clear now than it probably ever has before. So what you're going to want to do here is be relatively ruthless, going through your expenses, cutting the fat, figuring out what you can minimize and what you can control, and probably finding a little bit of fluff and a little bit of excess in all of your business, whether it's in your marketing or your sales or your operations or whatever it is. Could even mean having a chat with your accountant and trying to figure out where you're overpaying on taxes or what other deductions are available. Regardless, we want to make sure that you have adequate cash flow to get through this period. Now, moving forward, you probably want to start building in some kind of a reserve fund so you do have that backup, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days. Personally, I like to have at least 365 days of available cash flow, so I know that regardless of what's going on in the business, able to survive through anything, and even if we delivered no further services. Appreciate if you're not at that position right now, which by far the most people are not in that position, well then you've got to take those corrective actions in order to trim the fat and make sure that you're doing the most important things necessary. All that said, there is a bit of a fine line here, and it's hard to convey this in a video without speaking to you because there's nuance here in that you don't want to go into a complete scarcity mentality. You don't want to shut everything off, stop marketing, stop delivering services, stop doing everything, because then I guarantee on the other side of this, you will not have a chance against all of the other businesses who were able to make those educated and those wise decisions about what to cut and what to invest in. But more on that in just a minute too. All right, so that does lead perfectly to my next point, which is to buy low and sell high. Now, during a crisis, during an economic correction or recession or whatever it is, there is going to be an opportunity to buy low. After all, people are panicked, they're selling off everything, they're getting rid of things, they're doing all of the things that I kind of half advised in the previous step, at least in a sort of moderately educated or wise way, in that, again, you don't want to cut everything because now really is an opportunity to double down on the things that you know are working. Great example here is what we're seeing right now with Facebook ads and Instagram ads and YouTube ads, pretty much all of the advertising platforms, is that costs are lower than they've been in a very, very long time. This is really just because those online advertising platforms are like an auction. There's supply and demand. And right now, there's not a lot of demand because a lot of businesses are pulling back depending on the type of service or product that they provide. And again, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute here as well, about how to transition your product or your service mix in order to maximize your profitability. But regardless, just understand that there are opportunities for you to double down on the strategies and on the tools and tactics that you know are working, provided you have sufficient cash flow in order to survive this thing. All right, the next tip that I want to share with you is a bit more of a mindset thing, but it is incredibly important. And as cheesy as this is going to sound, it really does have to do with thinking positive. See, the reality is when we head into a crisis, when we head into a period of economic uncertainty, you really only have one of two different options, one of two major schools of thought. And we're seeing people fall very clearly into one or two of these categories. The first one is that everything is over, we're all doomed, we're all going to die, business is never going to be the same, and life as you know it is pretty much ended. Appreciate that this is a pretty fatalistic and nihilistic view that isn't going to help anybody. Certainly not yourself, certainly not the people that you serve. So the alternative that I'd like to propose, maybe not even positive, but at least neutral, in that, look, things are going to carry on. We are going to get through this. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So at the very least, it doesn't help you to spend any time at all in this total negative camp, consuming all of the horrible amounts of information that's being pumped on us. regardless of the fact that, yes, a lot of it's grounded in fact and science, and we appreciate that the situation, it ain't that pretty right now. But that doesn't stop you from trying to see a little bit of light and trying to understand that as society, as a species, we do tend to survive. We will get through this. There will be light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how dark things seem right now. So enough about that. Let's get back to the tactical stuff. All right, so the next tip that I'm advising my clients and my students do is to transition their offer mix. You see, depending on what kind of business you're in or what kind of clients or customers you serve, odds are pretty good you serve or you sell some kind of product or service in one of three different categories, either a staple, a luxury, or a deferrable. Now here's the reality. When it comes to things like staples, we're talking about food and water, toilet paper, office supplies, gasoline, coffee, I guess technically is kind of a food. Regardless, these are things that people are going to continue to buy, regardless of if there's a crisis, regardless of if there's a recession. That's why we call them staples. So if you sell something like that, you're going to be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. Another category is, of course, luxuries. These are going to be things that people spend discretionary income on. Now, I appreciate during a recession, that discretionary income spending and that amount of money that a lot of people have is going to go down for most people. The difference is, however, those luxury goods, well, they're still going to be purchased by the top 5% of the market. In fact, looking back historically, if you look at the figures, the top 5% of society will pretty much continue to spend what they're going to spend. Their buying behavior really won't change that much. So if you're selling luxuries and you're appealing to this market, you're in pretty good shape. And if you're not selling to that market, might be a good time to transition as well. The third and final category is the one that you do have to be a little concerned about, and these are deferables. These are things that are large purchases that don't necessarily have to be purchased today. Definitely not food, definitely not water, definitely not coffee. We're talking about things like a new car, or maybe a house, or a boat, or even a vacation, or anything that you're able to take and simply defer, put off into the future. During times of uncertainty, these are the things that are going to get pushed to the back burner. So if your business really focuses on selling deferables, you're going to want to try to transition your service mix and try to offer some kind of staple, some kind of luxury, or at the very least ensure that you have sufficient cash to ride this thing through, knowing that during times of crisis, during times of economic uncertainty, it's the deferables that get pushed and deferred. All right, the next point is something that I feel pretty strong about, and this is about ethical opportunism. See, right now we're seeing some pretty sketchy and pretty predatory and quite frankly, pretty disgusting behavior from a very select few individuals and companies. What they're doing is something called opportunism or unethical opportunism, where essentially they're taking a look at the crisis and the first question that comes into their mind is, how can I take advantage of this? How can I exploit other people? How can I sell more stuff that people don't need? How can I take advantage of their fear and of their panic and really use this to my benefit? And like I said, that's disgusting. The flip side of that, however, is something that is incredibly valuable to your customers, to your clients, and to society as a whole, and that is ethical opportunism. Essentially taking a look at the crisis, taking a look at times of economic uncertainty, and asking yourself the question, how can I help people? How can I provide more value? Knowing full well that you will be rewarded in direct proportion to the value that you provide. This is the beauty of capitalism. This is the beauty of the market that we live in. This is the beauty of helping and serving other people, in that there should be a reward for you by helping more people. But it really does come down to the mindset and the framing with which you ask this question. Your goal must be to try to serve, to try to help. And during times of crisis, there are going to be a lot of people that need your help. They need your products, they need your service, they need your expertise, they need your consulting, they need you to be that pillar or that rock during these times of uncertainty to help clear the path, show the way to the promised land. So how do you do that? How do you determine what are the best ethical opportunities for you to take advantage of? Well, that leads me perfectly to my next point, which is thinking time. There's an amazing book that I absolutely love called The Road Less Stupid, and what he advises here is that you spend a pretty decent amount of time thinking. Really, what this means is asking yourself a question and then spending some time with a pen and a piece of paper, or maybe even just your laptop, and writing out ideas. kind of like a form of strategic or modified journaling, where essentially you're asking yourself questions and then you're spending a lot of time thinking. And admittedly, this is what I've been doing for the last couple weeks, probably to a greater extent than I've probably ever done before. I'm spending hours and hours each and every single day simply thinking. I've got a pen, I've got some paper, and I'm writing down ideas. I'm going through my client stuff. I'm doing SWOT analysis on them and on my business. I'm asking questions about what the market needs. How can I provide more value? I'm doing my best to try to figure out where the opportunities lie, both for myself and for my business and for the businesses I own, as well again as for my clients and for my students and for you. What kind of content would be beneficial to create that would actually help people and provide some real value? These are all questions that I'm asking on a daily basis. So now is a great opportunity to spend that time thinking. This is an incredibly valuable skill to develop. It's an incredibly valuable habit to adopt. The more time that you can spend strategically thinking, well, the better quality questions you're going to be able to come up with and the better quality answers that are going to arise from those. All right, the next thing that I'm advising and that I'm doing personally in order to cope with a crisis and to come out stronger on the other side is that I'm limiting my intake of the news, of essentially inbound information, to a maximum of 1 time a day. And I'm doing this for 2 very strategic reasons. One is for personal mental health, and the other is for business health. Let me dive into it. First of all, the personal mental health is kind of obvious. After all, the vast majority of news media, no matter how true it is very, very negative. And this influx of constant negativity really starts to wear you down, and it starts to make you feel a little bit helpless and a little bit hopeless, and like the world is spinning out of control and you're left to just sit there and drown. Like I mentioned before, this is an incredibly useless attitude and mindset to have because, again, either everything is going to crash, we're all going to die, nobody's ever going to get out of this thing, and business and life as you know it is never going to be the same, which is a completely useless attitude to have, or we're going to find some way to get through this thing, and so why would you spend all of this time just drowning in negativity and really destroying your mindset? That was a rhetorical question. Really, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time over there. So the personal mindset stuff makes sense, but why business? Why, from a business perspective, am I only watching the news 1 time a day? Well, it does come down to a few different reasons. The first reason is because I do like to be informed. I do want to know what's going on in the world. The second thing, though, is that I'm using this as an opportunity to learn from the media. I'm learning their tactics and I'm learning their tricks. I'm learning the way that they convey messages. I'm also learning the way that they control and they manipulate and they really exacerbate fear and anxiety in order to sell more ad space, in order to make sure that you're consuming more of their content, because that is their goal. They want you to spend all day consuming their media. This is their entire business model. Not faulting them for that, it just is what it is. The second reason worth watching the news is to understand what society is doing, what other people are doing, and how they're reacting to a crisis or to times of economic uncertainty. Probably the most famous example now is the whole toilet paper thing. Why are people buying up all of the toilet paper, especially when all of the symptoms of the crisis that we're going through have nothing to do with anything that would need toilet paper? Well, again, by watching the news, by trying to understand this, I really dove deep into the marketing and into the psychological behavior of panic buying and of herd mentality and why people do the things they do. And it was enlightening and revealing, and it started to show that, look, there's a lot of activities that are going on in the masses that your customers and your clients are experiencing that are very subconscious, and they're not definitely sitting there making a grocery list thinking, 5,000 rolls of toilet paper, that's got to go on the list. Rather, it's reactive, it's impulsive, and again, it's based on fear and on anxiety. So what we're seeing right now is essentially all of the worst parts of marketing being used against us, being used against your customers and your clients. The beauty is, though, is that you don't have to join that mess. You can learn the lessons by watching it, and you can do the opposite. When this is all over, you can use all of those lessons to build yourself a bigger and a better business that really seeks to provide value and to serve those people that you most care about. And that's what I want for you. All right, so to help you take advantage of this downtime and to help you thrive during times of crisis and times of economic uncertainty, my next recommendation, something I strongly suggest you do, is to check out the video I have linked up right here, which is an introduction to marketing. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next episode. as I fell in love with marketing years ago when I first got interested in figuring out why people buy and act the way they do, and later how to influence and